Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Real Vision Podcast. I am your host, Kriswithak. And on the last episode, man, we talked about intentional living, having an attitude of gratitude, and how these things help transform my life. And so today I want to dive a little bit deeper into how I was able to turn my vision into a reality. And so when I started thinking about this period of time, it's been a process. And so I want to go back to some of the early struggles for me. You see, 2021 was that moment in my life where I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I was 60 pounds overweight. I had no clear direction of what I wanted out of my life. And I decided that I had to do something. And one of the things that happened during this year is I fell back in love with who I was unconditionally. And see, falling back in love with myself helped me to start saying, you know what, I got to do better. I got to start taking care of my health. I can remember during this time, I had a close friend of mine. He had a heart attack. And it really messed me up because, you know, we get to thinking, oh, it can't happen to us. We too young, so on and so forth. And so around this same time, I can remember being upstairs in my house. And I don't know what it was. I felt like this sharp pain come in my body to the point where it like paralyzed me. Like I was laying on the floor and my wife was downstairs and I didn't have the energy to be able to call out to her. I was just laying there on the ground and I was thinking to myself, like, I have to do something. I have to do something. And so I can remember focusing on my breathing and I got this clear image of what was possible for me to obtain. And when I was able to come back to my senses and I got back up, from that point on, I committed. I went and signed up for a gym and I started working out. July of 2021. And I never stopped. And so this is why, like, I always will reference getting active, because you could be in a place where you really don't know which direction to go. You have no motivation. You have none of those things, but the gym will start giving you these building blocks, these confirmations of what the process is like. I started riding the momentum of taking care of myself into 2022. And in 2022, I had two things that happened in my life that really changed the trajectory of everything. The first thing was I found out I was going to be a father. And let me tell you what, like, the immediate thought that went through my mind is that I got 9 months to figure this out. Everything that's happened before, you got to wash it away. I got 9 months to figure this out. And it's so interesting how life works, because flashback to 2017, I started becoming infatuated with the idea that you can take a cell phone and be able to produce these cinematic videos. Now, little did I know the volume of hours that I was spending watching how to film from your phone was going to prepare me for what was to come. And this is why I said earlier, you don't have to know how. You just have to be very clear with what it is that you want. And the how will just come into your life. So in 2022, man, my brother-in-law hits me up and he says, do you want to go and film a wedding with me? I'll pay you. I said, sure, of course. And so I go out with him and I film this wedding. And I was absolutely trash because I had never used the actual camera before. But I understood certain things. I understood what to look for. I just didn't know how to operate the camera. But the thing that I gained the most from being out at this wedding was I saw the possibilities of what you can do with the camera. And so it's interesting because around this time as well, I was listening to a Kevin Samuels video. And he asked a question. He said, what skills do you have? And that question like triggered me for whatever reason during this time of my life. Because I started to think and I said to myself, I took it a step further. I said, excluding what's on my resume, if you drop me in the middle of nowhere, how do I generate income? if I couldn't depend on a job, what could I do to go out and make income? And so from this wedding, I was able to discover, oh, if I just develop my skills behind the camera, then I can earn income. I can increase my overall value. So I had figured out that I could develop this skill, and I became empowered by this situation. I was listening to this video, and it talked about how often we'll come to this point in our life, and we have several of these moments where the decision that you make can change the whole trajectory of where you're going in your life. And sometimes in these situations, we'll sabotage ourselves out of fear, because we know that if we take on this task, this new objective, this new uncomfortable place, that it's going to require more from us, and we're going to have to rise to the occasion. In some places, we're really comfortable with how things are. We might be working a nice job. We may be able to provide for our family and go on vacation, so we become very content in this place. And we know this next place that we may have to go to, this is not as comfortable as what it is right now. My job is cush. I'm chilling. I can do this with my eyes closed. There's a little bit of challenge. I'm a little tired, but it's cake for the most part. So my brother-in-law texts me, and he reaches out and he says, hey bro, I'm double booked on October the 5th. Do you mind filming a wedding for me? And I started drafting up the excuse on why I wasn't going to be able to do it. One, because October the 5th, 2022 was Alabama A&M's homecoming. And this was the first homecoming in a while because, you know, COVID came through and things were just different. But this was a homecoming that I had been putting in the work. You see, the previous one, shout out to my frat brother. You know who you are when you're listening to this. I had put in some work in 2021, and I had lost about 20-ish pounds by the end of that year, 15, something like that. And I remember running into my frat brother, and he was like, yo, Noop, like, you know, you look good. I'm proud of you. He was like, but you just t-shirt ready. And I knew exactly what he was meaning. And so I went into the lab. I said, okay, I'm about to show you next homecoming. We're going to see if I'm just t-shirt ready. This homecoming was special for me. I had been putting in the work. I had transformed physically. I was ready to get my shine on. And I was completely terrified at the idea of going and filming a wedding when I had no experience except for that one time. I didn't even own the equipment to go out and film. And I'm thankful for the confidence that my brother-in-law had in me, because I said to myself, if he's that confident to ask me to go film a wedding representing his brand, then I must be able to do it. It must be possible for me to do this. And so before I knew it, I had erased that excuse out and I said, absolutely. And there was no turning back at this point. I remember leaving work early, driving to Nashville and going and picking up a camera. Because I said, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it the right way. I'm going to go all the way in. And I went into the lab. I watched all the courses that I could day in and day out on how to use the camera, how to film weddings, to get prepared, because this was less than 3 weeks away. And I go out and I film this wedding, and it was still to this day one of the best weddings that I've ever filmed. And so I had a shift that happened in my life that allowed me to redirect what my intentions was set on. And so this is a key principle of transformation: intention setting. What is it that you want and why? And see, once you start to figure out what it is that you want, well, naturally your daily habits are going to start aligning with what your intentions are. I started finding myself getting rid of all the stuff that I was doing before that wasn't aligning with where I was trying to go. It wasn't enough time in the day to do both things. This was the sacrifice that I was willing to make. I couldn't play the video games anymore. I couldn't just sit around and watch Netflix. I had to take a break from these things to allow for time to do the things that would align with what my intentions were. And this is something that I feel like naturally happens. Because once you start really focusing on what it is that you want, naturally you'll fall into doing the things that will support this. And so the thing that I love about, and again, you hear me reference it all the time, PPS, push-ups, pull-ups, and squats, is because through this daily routine, I saw what happens when you start becoming consistent. When I started off 2022, I couldn't do pull-ups. But every day I would go into the gym and I would just, if I couldn't do the pull-up, I would hang on a bar. Then I graduated to using the assisted pull-ups. So as I started introducing more of these daily habits into my life that supported the thing that I was really being intentional about, I started to experience a growth mindset. Everything became possible because I was able to look at it and say, you know what? All it takes is a little bit of time. And one of the things that I had to learn was to stop comparing where I'm at to where other people were at. Because I don't know their story. I don't know how long they've been putting in work. I don't know what they had to sacrifice to get to where they at. Some people are born with some abilities that gives them a little bit of an advantage. But that doesn't mean that it's not possible for you. And so everywhere I was looking, when I would have conversations with people, I would just get so enlightened. I would get so excited because I knew that it was possible for me to do the exact things that they were doing and put my spin on it. You have to embrace a growth mindset. It's always about evolving. It's always about getting better. And so now I want to give you some practical tips, some suggestions on things that I used in my life during this time to help me along the way. The first thing that you really got to do is you got to become clear. Really define what the goal is. And what I like to do after I've defined what this goal is I break it down into the smallest denomination. Like Will Smith said, you start with one brick at a time. Each day I would go into the gym and I would start with one pull-up until I could get to 2 pull-ups. The books that was boring, the podcast that I didn't want to listen to, I started falling in love with doing these things because I realized over time I will grow to like them. That this is a process that I just have to go through. And so you want to be clear with what your goals are. And then after you have become clear with what these goals are, create a routine that supports the goals. Don't say that you want something and you ain't finna start implementing things into your life that's going to align with what that is that you want. Elsewise, it's just cap. And I'm gonna call a spade a spade. It sounds good. I think a lot of times we like doing that. Oh, I'm about to do this and I'm about to do that. And we don't change anything in our life to support it. But we'll make the announcement though. Create a routine. Develop a daily routine that's gonna line up with these goals. And then let me give you this last key. Surround yourself around people that's gonna support the direction of where you're trying to go. My conversations with people started changing. I started becoming so infatuated with just seeking out some of these amazing things that people around me were doing. And the more that you're around folks like that, you can't come to the table empty-handed because it's a checks and balance system that's going on. Daily, I would have calls. Chris, you work on the podcast yet? You start on the vlog yet? What you learned on the camera today? You been to the gym? This is every day. It's iron sharpening iron. Birds of a feather flock together. Surround yourself around people that are supportive of what you're doing. People that are doing things that you can't even imagine. Be in the atmosphere. Be in the area of them. Changes everything for you. Your perspective about what's possible shifts. And you start naturally picking up on these tips and tricks that they're doing. You're like, oh, all you did was turn to the left. I could do that. You know what I mean? Like, it starts becoming so easy for you. So let's all remember, man, this transformation is a journey. Don't compare yourself to what everybody else is doing. It doesn't matter. Focus on getting better by the day. Every day, did I get better? In what area did I improve? Check and balance yourself. You say that you won't change. Are your actions that you're doing daily aligning with the thing that you're saying that you want? And if they not, just be honest with yourself. It's so simple. So remember that this transformation is a journey, man. Stay intentional, stay consistent, and believe in the possibilities. So if you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review. Make sure to share it with your friends. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. And as always, day by day in every way, keep striving to get better and better. Let's go.